much.
You're welcome.
It was a very inspiring
Thank you.
talk you just gave. You mentioned truth a number of times, including your campaign slogan is "Because the truth matters." If you ask the average American, do politicians lie? Typically, after they stop laughing, they say, of course they lie.
Yep.
So we know that there's at least a perception of this in Washington, if not a reality. And we see it almost daily in the newspaper where somebody is accusing somebody else of lying. It used to be one party against the other. Now it's within parties itself. So there's an expression that the tone is set at the top for organizations in terms of ethical standards. The president clearly is at the top. So as president, how would you set the tone for Congress? Because there are a number of people in Congress that are training their staffers in unethical ways to be able to navigate through the system.
Well, look, you're absolutely right that the tone gets set at the top. And if you want the top job, you have to take that responsibility. And I did as governor of New Jersey for 8 years. If you go to New Jersey and you ask them, they'll say a lot of things about me. Some good, some not so good. But what they will never say is that I lied to them. They'll say I didn't agree with him. They'll say I think he was a little too tough on that. They'll say that I think he's ambitious. They'll say all those things. But you will not find anybody who said I lied. What I did when I became governor was I brought, and I'll give you the context on this so you guys all know. I talked about those political corruption convictions. When I was U.S. Attorney, I put 10% of the state legislature in jail. We have 120 members of the state legislature in New Jersey. 12 of them I sent to jail during my 7 years. And then I go down and become governor. So you can imagine the welcoming committee I had when I got there. But one of the things I brought with me was I brought 29 former assistant United States attorneys with me to populate my administration. Because I wanted to send a message to every one of those departments and a message to the legislature, which was, I'm bringing truth tellers with me. I'm bringing people who know that the only thing I will accept is doing the right thing. And anybody who doesn't won't be there any longer. And I think personnel is policy. Who you pick and how they conduct themselves reflects directly upon all of you. So first thing is I would pick people who I knew, first and foremost, would understand that only the truth will be tolerated in the Christie administration. And even if that truth's bad for us on a particular day. Because the other thing I learned in 8 years as governor is you have good days, you're going to have bad days. Not every day is going to be good. And the days that are bad only get worse when you lie. You make a mistake, you belly up to the bar and admit it, and people are forgiving if they think you're telling the truth. Second thing that's really important is to develop a relationship with the Congress. One of the things I did with the state legislature, I thought was a small thing, but turned out to be a really big thing, was I called every state legislator every year on their birthday. This became like a thing. Well, I started to do it because I thought it was a decent idea. And then, and I usually would call them in the morning because I had an hour and a half drive every day to the State House. So that's when I would do it. But some mornings I'd be doing other things. And then if the legislator didn't get their phone call on their birthday, in the morning, they thought, well, what's going on? And one time, one of them called me and said, you know it's my birthday today, right? I said, man, I was in a meeting this morning. I was going to call you this afternoon. I use that as kind of a funny example of the bigger point, which is it takes time to develop these relationships. This is a human business still. And I spent a lot of time, I'm sure Governor Sununu never has done this, but I spent some time with people in the legislature who not only I didn't agree with, but I didn't even like. But it's my job. I'm the governor. And I have to develop relationships with those folks. And when you do, I used to have a saying in our office, whenever anybody would say, should we do this meeting or shouldn't we? I almost always was saying yes. And what I'd say to them is, remember, it's a lot harder to hate up close. We have hate in our system. And the way to break down that hate is to get close. Find out about their spouses, their children, their grandchildren. Find out why they got into politics in the first place. What were they hoping to accomplish when they got to Washington? And how's it worked for them? And what can I do for them as president to help make their aspirations come true? It's not just about mine. They got elected too. And we don't have that anymore. Barack Obama didn't do it, didn't care to do it. Donald Trump didn't do it and didn't care to do it. And Joe Biden's just too damn tired to do it, even if he wanted to. Right? He can't do it either. The last president we had who even cared about this was President Bush. And he did it in the first 9 months, and then 9/11 came, and it changed the entire approach to everything. So part of breaking down that cycle of hate and anger and division is to spend the time we're going to have to spend to make people understand that even if we disagree, there's no reason for us to hate each other. And that's why I said last night in my closing that you can't truly love America unless you're going to open up your heart to all Americans. And that's on all of us. But if I'm not doing it, there's no obligation for you to even think about doing it if I'm not going to. And so I don't know. You got anything to add to that, Gov? Because you had a little experience.
Well, I used to ask everyone, I used to call everyone on their birthday until I looked at my calendar and I said, wait a minute, Bill Boyd's not 29. Why is everyone in the legislature claim to be 29? This is all a bunch of bullshit. No, look, transparency. I mean, that's it. Right? As the governor said, when you're governor, that's why I'm partial to governors, not because we all have the same title, because you need to be transparent or you're called on your stuff. You need to be accountable. Transparency is the foundation of public trust, right? Governors get that. Governors know that. Governors know you can't say one thing one day and something else the next day because there's a whole different sense of accountability with governors than anybody else. So, no, that's it.
Yeah. And by the way, one of the things I want to emphasize, one of the things that the Gov said in his remarks, like, it does matter to know how to get things done. Like, there were a number of moments where I wanted to burst out laughing last night on that debate stage, but one of them was when Vivek Ramaswamy said, "We need a CEO to run America." We've been there, okay? We had a CEO for 4 years. That didn't work out too well. And if Donald Trump didn't work out well, Vivek Ramaswamy, if he ever became president, would make you pine for the good old days, okay? This is somebody who really, Nikki and I were on the stage next to each other last night, as you saw, and during one of the commercial breaks, I turned to Nikki and I said, "Where did this guy come from?" And I'm not going to tell you Nikki's answer. When Nikki comes up here the next time, you can ask her, "Where did you tell Christie you thought Ramaswamy came from?" That'll be a good first question in her next town hall meeting, and she'll get a good laugh out of it, I guarantee you. We need someone who knows how to do this. Government is different. It's not business. When you're the CEO of a business, you say, "I want this done," and if people don't do it, they get fired. Yeah, in government sometimes, but more times than not, you got to massage it and mold it and move people and convince people and cajole people, and that's what governors learn how to do. And I learned how to do it in one of the bluest states in this country. I want you to remember, it's been 50 years since we in New Jersey elected a Republican to the United States Senate. We have the longest streak of any state in America. When I got elected governor, we have a 80-member lower house. I never had more than 32 people in that lower house out of 80. And I never had more than 15 senators out of 40. It wasn't close, everybody. Like, they dominated. And I had to learn how to work with that and make things happen. That's the training you need to go to Washington and move the Congress. Not being in a red state, with all due respect to red states, who have Republican legislatures who go, "Yes, ma'am, yes, sir." That ain't the way it works. It's not the way it works up here for him. It isn't the way it worked for me. And that's the kind of experience you need. And that's the kind of experience we'll bring.